Greetings, this is Pillar Nexus the Ancient Gladiator, and today in our delve into my board game design vault, we feature Remnants, Reservations, and Remembrance. The pieces of games left over, and ideas I'm still thinking about, and ideas I no longer have. Let's discover them today. This one is a Soulbreaker. It's one of the rare ones here that is actually complete, and also one of the rare ones I've tested out with someone else. It involves deploying units, giving them equipment. There are units of higher levels as well as equipment of higher levels, and to do that, you need to discard cards or return cards a lower level to your hand. Or you use buildings to circumvent that. In addition, this is a game where the cards you get are randomly available and you choose from them. And they have rarities as well. And very much inspired by the Warcraft board game and a little bit by StarCraft. And I don't know. Um, I, the game is just kind of weird, I think. A little too random. Some people might think it's cool. Um, Also, another thing is, for the cards, there's just paper or the card stock. I could probably make a completely different game out of them as well, but I may revisit it. We'll see. Music is not the weapon; it's the trigger. Wavebreakers, a game of individuals and their allies fighting against various enemy forces, uh, fighting to ruin the human world. And you have psychic powers and giant robots. And yeah, this is very much a game inspired by Xenogears and Xenosaga. And um, if this were a computer or a video game, it'd probably be a rhythm game of some kind because you're got your dice and you're trying to get create a kind of rhythm in terms of like what you're rolling, like maybe two of the same or ascending or descending values, and you have abilities to alter the roll. Your powers are like psychics, but they also have the elements such as heat, and light, and sound, and psi and void, and it's I don't know. It's like I've put a lot into it in terms of the story and everything else, but I haven't really done anything else with making it as playable as it deserves to be. But it's an idea that I really like because, uh, as curious as I am about mythology and spirituality and all that, there are times it gets really frustrating, and it's like partly reflected with stuff like faction like Blood Rose and Ogre and Denidos. And there's a whole mythology I want to explore with it. It's an idea I might very well come back to. Last Arrow, game of piloting your spaceship against aliens known as Nidos, where you'll have D10s to split between trying to shoot them down and trying to navigate the hazards. You'll have an opportunity to gain items and points. Points help get more ships, and you can also take Twitch to reroll dice, but if you ever have more Twitch than dice, then that's overcorrection, you'll start losing dice. And of course, Twitch will just drop over time, but if you need it in a critical moment, your ship might be in trouble. Obviously, it's R-Type, and I like that game. I suck at it, but I think it's pretty cool. I'm sure there's probably at least one game that does this idea better. I've thought out the rules and items and all that, but I have yet to complete a single scenario for this game. 6 levels, none of which are figured out. But I might come back to it later. Busy City, a game of living in a modern city and going on adventures and all that. Kind of like Grand Theft Auto, except more family friendly, less theft, less drugs, less all that negative stuff. Um, this one I don't even have rules for. The last ones I printed out rules and all that. I'm still working on figuring out this one. But there's dice for depending on how traffic is and more things you have to deal with. You've got your vehicles. I want to get like actual miniature vehicles for this. Would be a lot of fun. This one has too much to figure out, but again, maybe I'll come back to it. And now we get into the games that are lost to time. Paradigm. This is like the one game that I've made twice, one of which is a really nice box. But you have your pawns and your gates, and depending on where it is, either your id or your ego, and dice that determine action points at the start, and battle. You're trying to flip your gates up to your color and collect ego from other players by fighting them in battle, which will break id, and you need id in order to win the battle. Was kind of a weird random game, and weirdly it's one. I don't know where the hell I got this idea that to me the game was like some kind of psychological weapon, despite the fact that I made it. It would be nice to find the one that I made that's in the box. Find that again, but I'd have to see who's been in Denver for game convention auctions from like years ago. And then there's Alpha Squad, where players control teams of dudes with stats for movement and range and special equipment, and fight on maps for special missions, and you complete missions to win points, and most points wins. That's an idea from one of my earliest times in my design curiosity. In a way, it kind of lives on in Hearts of Chaos, so I'm not too sad about losing it. But it was really inspired by General Chaos, old Sega Genesis game. Fun times. Should find it again. Blockheads, a block puzzle deathmatch. You have your player characters and their power to summon and push or resist pushes by blocks, and you use them to fight your opponents. There's like all sorts of different blocks to summon, and they all did weird stuff. Very much inspired by Chip's Challenge. In fact, one of the ideas I had in mind was there'd be this tournament mode, and the final boss was going to be Chip himself, which would be hilarious and silly, but I don't think I can legally do that. I could always go back and like get more wooden cubes and try to do this again, but figuring out the physics and all that is kind of a pain in the butt. Can't ignore momentum. Totalitaria, game of building business and brand, but you have to protect the city from outside attacks from creatures. There's Duskers. There's markets of art, fashion, entertainment, technology, and civil goods. You can buy factories and stores to create and sell your items. You can buy other people's creations to sell at your own stores. There's demand that puts these three things in different orders. So for each one will be different. It'll be like price or trend or quality and trend and price. You'll have to hire people to produce goods, decide how much to sell them for. This also takes place in the Wavebreakers timeline after the events of that happen. This game, I believe I disassembled because Automobile is a better game, and also Container is a better game. It's hard to do good market games, I think, but there's a whole storyline from before Wavebreakers to Wavebreakers itself to after Wavebreakers that I want to explore at some point. We used to have a Lost Facility, a game of a randomly generated underground lab that is also set in the Hazard universe. The storyline was supposed to be Galaxy Hunter's Lost Facility Hazard. Galaxy Hunter had even less development before he tore it apart. Besides, there's already like level 7 Escape is a better game. And there was Gunload, pretty much FPS on the tabletop with some weird weapons and an odd turn order. Really just play Adrenaline or Frag, or if you can find either of the Doom board games. And if you find the first one with the expansion, that one has Deathmatch built in. The new one, I think you have to figure it out on your own. But this one was just too much of a pain to figure it out. Substructure was a game of exploring some underground beneath the city and going on missions and dealing with like mutants and insects and other crazy, scary creatures. I wish I'd finished the game. I really do. But all I came up with were like rules and using some terrain that I'd picked up. I don't have that anymore. I'd almost say go play Necromunda because that's the obvious influence. I'm also seeing Core Space, and I'm thinking, hey, this kind of looks like it'd be a perfect alternative, but I gotta pick it up. And then video game industry, develop your game, make money, affect the trends, like make stuff more mainstream or more niche. And this one was inspired by playing Hyperdimension Neptunia Rebirth 1. And this was like back in, I want to say 2016 or 2017, because it was right after I'd borrowed the anime from the library and watched that and enjoyed the hell out of it. I was like, okay, I'm going to play this video game about video games. And that was a fun time. I haven't gone back to mess with that in a long time. But it's just I think the game was like a little too crazy. So I think I tore that one apart. And ultimately, there's like a dozen other ideas, that I've only just begun to start talking about. A lot of stuff from these older designs have been worked into a lot of the more recent ones that are at the top of my priorities for working on games again. I think, there's an old idea called Rune Fist that I think I took that idea and paradigm and tried to merge them together. So we've got like the gates as elemental things rather than the psychological craziness that was paradigm. But these are ideas that I could return to if I really wanted to. Game design is just, I don't know. It's fun just to think up ideas and all that, but really, I don't know what I should commit to, or if I just maybe put my creative efforts elsewhere. For a long while, I kind of put game design off to the side and try to focus on stitching. And then I got sidetracked from all my creative efforts by getting into, watching VTubers and everything else. And then work has just taken all my energy out of me. I'm just creatively drained. But maybe I'll come back to it. That would be nice to come back to these creative ideas and give them a second chance. Maybe they deserve it. Maybe they need to be reworked. Let's see. If any of these ideas sound interesting to you, let me know. Like the video, let me know. If there's anything else, let me know. This is it for the Game Design Vault series. We are done. The rest is just barely started ideas and spare parts. And that's pretty much it for the series. I'm going to try something different with future videos. Thank you very much for watching. Y'all are awesome. This has been Pillar. See you.